Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Start listening with a 30-day Audible trial and you can choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/thedom or text the DOM to 500 500. Hello my beautiful watchers and welcome back to Lost in Adaptation, the YouTube-based review show dedicated to discussing the plot and theme differences between books and the films based on them. Before we begin, I've been a bit reflective recently and I've decided I need to be completely clear with you. There's been some complaints about a lack of transparency in my review process. Some people thought they could see right through me, while others just had no idea where I'm standing on certain issues, and I do have a habit of hiding my opinions, so sometimes you can't see them coming. You can't tell, but I'm doing that shit-eating grin I do when I think I've been very funny. The Invisible Man was written by an author who's featured on this show once already, H. Wells. I may have gushed just a tad about Wells in my War of the Worlds adaptation review, so I'll spare you a word-for-word repeat. The summarized version is this guy was just a really good writer who was just redonkulously ahead of his time. He was theorizing credible sciences centuries before the rest of the world caught up, and is considered second only to Mary Shelley in influential founders of the science fiction genre. The Invisible Man was originally serialized throughout 1897, then republished as a novella before the end of the year. In 1933, Universal Pictures adapted the story to the big screen, directed by popular horror film creator James Whale of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein fame. The character was so popular he became a member of the Universal Classic Monsters Club and was going to be a part of the aborted Dark Cinematic Universe played by Johnny Depp. I'd love to say that the timing of this episode intentionally coincided with the reimagining that we did get hitting cinemas, but cards on the table, this was just the next paid Patreon request on the list, and I just got lucky. Anyway, here's my thoughts on the book just as a book. Like many influential stories, The Invisible Man is a little bit a victim of its own success these days. It was the first to try out several things that were so popular they would later become tropes in the genre, so a modern reader trying the book for the first time might find it somewhat tropey due to no fault of its own. You might also feel a slight absence of plot due to the main theme of the story being, what if a guy could be invisible? Now that we've had so many of those, you kind of have to tag on an and to the end to keep it interesting, e.g., what if a guy could be invisible, and use that to torment and gaslight his ex. That said, it is still an engaging read. Like I mentioned, Wells had the double whammy advantage of being a visionary and a damn good writer. Unlike other books, I don't think this one suffered overly for having been serialized originally. Wells found the perfect balance between reminding readers of previous installments without repeating anything to the point of annoyance. Okay, moving on to my thoughts on the film as a unique entity. This is the second adaptation I've seen where they keep the original British setting of the book, but hire an almost all-American cast who don't even bother attempting accents, making it appear that England is almost exclusively populated by Americans. I'm not sure I can fully express just how impressed I am with the special effects in this movie. The clever tricks and hard work they put into pulling some of this stuff off with 1930s film technology kind of boggles the mind a bit. Even when it's clearly just the use of wires, the amount of effort that must have been put into getting the timing just right is super impressive. The film deserves a watch just for that. If you're into old school sci-fi or horror, this really is one of the classics. Right, let's talk adaptation. A mysterious man wrapped in bandages and dark glasses to hide his face and eyes, who is later revealed to be called Griffin, trudging through a snowstorm to rent a room at an inn in a small town in Iping, Sussex, England. The odd gentleman attempting to gain as much privacy as possible so he may conduct weird experiments in his room, though is constantly interrupted by his inquisitive landlords. Griffin showing bouts of destructive anger and increasing hostility towards disturbances, eventually falling behind on his bill and the innkeeper attempting to evict him to violent results. When local law enforcement attempts to arrest him, an annoyed Griffin reveals that he's wrapped up so warm to hide the fact that you can't see anything under his clothes, as he had some time ago turned himself invisible with the use of a drug that he had developed that makes things transparent. Using his invisibility to successfully fight pretty much the entire town, he escapes, leaving the villagers to try to convince the world that they've not all gone spontaneously mad. Griffin deciding that finding a cure for his invisibility is pointless and breaking into the home of a former colleague of his, Dr. Kemp, to demand that he help him with his new plan of world domination. Intending to spread a reign of terror over Britain by by using his invisibility to murder random people until everyone is so afraid they'll do everything he says. Kemp pretending to be on board but calling the police as soon as Griffin goes to bed. Griffin once again using his invisibility to escape and issuing a death sentence on Kemp for his betrayal. The ending of the film diverges in quite a lot of details, but the general result of the Invisible Man eventually getting overwhelmed and killed by a large group of people is indeed the gist of it. As he passes away, the invisibility drugs stop working and his body reappears. The fact that this film predates the Hays Code of Cinema and its heavy restrictions on what was acceptable to be on screen no doubt helped with staying loyal to the book. Of course, that said, the evildoer received his comeuppance at the end anyway, so there at least wouldn't have been any need to hit the main character with a lightning bolt. So, yeah, not bad. Easily enough of the book in this that they are directly comparable. Now let's see if any of the changes made by the filmmakers resulted in a fundamental shift to the story. So I mentioned the details of the endings differed a wee bit between the book and the film. In the book, after Griffin passes his death sentence on Kemp, Kemp sends word to the local police that this is their chance to trap Griffin using him as bait, but the message is intercepted by the Invisible Man. A police inspector friend of Kemp's has the bad luck to check in on him just before Griffin starts the siege of his house and gets shot trying to go for help. Two younger policemen show up and manage to hold Griffin off just long enough for Kemp to cheese it into town with Griffin hard on his heels. He appeals to a crowd of townsfolk for help who attempt to subdue the transparent assailant. Griffin fights so hard things get nasty and the mob ends up kicking him to death. In the film, it's a police chief's idea to use Kemp as bait, but he refuses in a fit of cowardice, so instead they just try to make it look like he's going to hide at headquarters but smuggle him out dressed as a constable and take him home. He gets in his car and tries to bail, but it turns out Griffin was hiding in his back seat the whole time and murders him by tying him up and sending the car over a cliff. Griffin is then forced to take shelter from a snowstorm in a barn, and the local farmer discovers him while he's sleeping and leads the police to him. They completely surround the building and then set it on fire. When he comes out, they fatally shoot him, which I'm pretty sure is exactly how they did for John Wilkes Booth in the end. I'm not sure if that was an intentional reference. So yeah, I would say that with the exception of poor Kemp, the endings were pretty much different paths to the same destination. The single biggest change to occur in the film, the one that I believe had a knock-on effect and necessitated several others, was to Griffin, the Invisible Man's nature. Early on in the film, they established that a key part of Griffin's invisibility drug cocktail was an extract from a rare MacGuffin flower that could drain the colour out of the things it was injected into, but unknown to Griffin had recently been discovered to also drive its test subjects utterly mad. They also created an entirely new character to be his love interest, the daughter of Griffin's former boss, who spends the entire movie talking about what a nice guy he was before he turned invisible. To be completely blunt, in the book Griffin was always a complete arsehole. Long before he turned invisible, he lived and worked in isolation as much as possible so he wouldn't have to share the possible fruits of his labor with anyone else. He was needlessly violent, he experimented on other people's kitties, and he was incredibly anti-Semitic. The power of invisibility stoked his selfish and murderous nature, ironically making it more apparent for the world to see, but it certainly wasn't the cause of it. Blaming it all on a magic flower seems, I don't know, more tragic, yes, but maybe also a little shallow compared to having to face Wells' point about great power potentially revealing a man's true dark nature. It's often more horrifying to have to acknowledge that the potential to be a monster lies within the heart of man without any external influences. The fact that he wasn't mad in the book makes it more amusing to me that he just assumed that Kemp would be on board with the whole reign of terror thing. Griffin kills a lot more people in the film. I think his body count was one confirmed murder and one very probable killing at the end of the book. Just like he explained to Kemp, the vicious bugger in the film goes on a bit of a killing spree, smashing heads in, pushing men off cliffs, and derailing a train, killing hundreds. Kemp is done somewhat dirty by the film. He's a pretty reasonable man in the book who understandably wasn't down for Griffin's plan for world domination via mass murder. He's portrayed as a sneaky, selfish coward in the film with the poor taste to try to hit on Griffin's girlfriend while he was missing. Even the stuff pertaining to him that's loyal to the book is presented in a very different light. For example, in the book, informing the police that Griffin was with him was shown as an act of doing the right thing despite the danger it put him in, but in the film it makes it clear that the more honourable thing to have done would have been to listen to his friends and try to help Griffin in secret. You know, for the record, it is so much easier using a cloak than drugs. Get out of here, you! This isn't your genre. The novella goes into more depth regarding the science behind Griffin's discovery, as in there actually is some as opposed to, hey look, a wonder drug from a magic flower. Griffin was an albino in the book, which was actually quite lucky for him because the invisibility drug he invented could only make very pale things transparent. A huge theme of the book that I think wasn't as fully embraced into the film as it could have been was Griffin recounting just how much it sucked to be permanently invisible. While he could in principle get away with a lot of things because of it, he couldn't enjoy any of the rewards. If he stole money, he could barely spend it without giving himself away, he couldn't eat in public, he couldn't have a relationship with anyone, and trust me, Britain is not a climate you want to be naked in for any length of time, even in summer. There's a significant chunk of the middle of the book left out in which Griffin press gangs a homeless man by the name of Marvel into being his helper, aiding him under duress in retrieving his research journals from the inn he just vacated in a hurry, and then holding the money after Griffin robs an entire town. Marvel eventually makes a break for it with the cash and the books. He hides in a pub that happens to have a gun-toting American in it who wounds Griffin when he attempts to exact revenge. In the epilogue, it's revealed that Marvel bought the bar with the money that Griffin had him carry, and he also kept the research journals in secret, reading them every night in the hopes that someday he'll be able to figure out Griffin's secrets. With the exception of that ending, most of Marvel's role in the story is absorbed into douchebag Kemp. I couldn't quite figure out exactly what happened to his research and the future of invisibility in this version of the story. Final thoughts. So a rather short conclusion this time, I suspect. Good book, good film, both worthy of the impact that they had on the world at the time of their release, though I also understand why the Invisible Man is one of the less often rebooted Universal monsters. He's just not as sexy as Dracula or as lovable as Frankenstein. And not a bad adaptation all in all. The one serious umbrage I have is the changing Griffin's motivation, but I think I can live with it. While it is somewhat its own take on the story, it is still H.G. Wells' story. Before I go, the Invisible Dom has a quick word from our sponsors. Yo, if this adaptation review has seduced you into wishing to experience the works of H.G. Wells for yourself, you'll be pleased to hear that both this book and the other one that I reviewed a little while ago are available from Audible, and you can listen to one right now with no charge. With Audible's no commitment 30-day trial, you get a free credit which can be exchanged for an audiobook regardless of its price, and you'll also be entitled to 2 free Audible originals. As an Audible member, you'll receive a new credit each month, exclusive sales, and 30% off all regularly priced audiobooks. If you don't redeem it, the credits roll over, so there's no pressure if you're having a slow month. If you choose not to continue with the service at any point during the trial, there is no charge, but you still get to keep anything you've downloaded. The audiobooks are yours forever! Easy access to Audible's unmatched library of audiobooks is an absolute game changer for anyone with a busy lifestyle or regular commute to deal with, as they allow you to enjoy all your favorite titles while still completing other activities. If this sounds at all appealing, and let's face it, why wouldn't it, follow the link in the video description to visit audible.com/thedom, or text the Dom to 500 to start listening and enjoying now. Thank you for joining me, my beautiful watchers. Until we meet again, please keep in mind that while H.G. Wells might have believed that man holds within him the unaided capacity to become a monster, I'm somewhat of the opinion that the true monster of my story is the engagement-hungry YouTube algorithm. So, if you wouldn't mind feeding it lots of likes, comments, and shoutouts on social media, I would be greatly appreciative. If you're new here, do consider subscribing to stay up to date with new content, and I will see you soon. Much love and appreciation to my patrons of honor, Shelby Holtz and Sam Cucinotta. Hello again, my beautiful watchers. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you a quick reminder that there's a wonderful website called Patreon that's been allowing online producers to actually make a living doing what they do, since apparently YouTube's decided that they shouldn't anymore. Basically, they offer the chance to pledge a certain amount of money per month or per video in exchange for various rewards offered by the creator. There's a variety of stuff you can earn by becoming one of my patrons, including early access to all videos and taking part in that survey you see at the start of every Lost in Adaptation episode. That's actually a very important part of the process, as I use it to gauge how much I'm going to need to explain about the book and the film before I start comparing them. If you decide to become a higher level contributor, your name will be added to the credits that you're seeing right now, and you'll be given the option to join my private chat room so you can regularly talk with me and other patrons. If you're keen enough to join the topmost tier of patronage, you'll earn the most coveted of all the rewards, the chance to pick a future adaptation to be reviewed by yours truly. However, if right now you are thinking, my
My goodness, the Dom, I can't do that. A mysterious but handsome wizard wearing sunglasses informed me you're spending the money on a cannon designed to allow you to shoot puppies into the sun. And I have no reason to assume whoever that was making it up for his own amusement. Fear not, it would still be a huge help to me if you were to give that like button the old clickaroo, share this episode on social media with perhaps a little recommendation to your friends to check it out, and subscribe if you've not already. It really helps my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. I hope you have a most pleasant day, and I will see you in the next episode.
You want me to close the door?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay.
I think it's all good. The Invisible Man was written by an author who's featured on this show once already. Ah, Sir Terry, get off my foot. Get off my foot, cat. You little bugger. My glasses are fogged up. Alright.
Fogged up? Or fucked up?
Fogged up.
Do you want me to clean them?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I can't see anyway. No, you're gonna bother me. You have to appear on camera and please the audience. And the bloopers are always more funny. Okay. How did I look? I couldn't get this thing off, so I just pulled it down.
Sorry.
That's okay. Floof, floof, floof. So much floof. You are made of floof. There's no charge, but you still get to keep anything you've downloaded. The audiobooks are yours forever. Now I'm covered in floof.